Welcome, wrestling fans. Welcome to Curtain Jerkin. As always, I'm your host, Jacob Grondys, reporting for the Main Event Mark's YouTube channel and the Dragon Suplex Podcasting Network. I usually say this, it's been a big week in pro wrestling, but goddamn, has it been a big week in pro wrestling. In front of the curtain, we've seen some of the best wrestling from WWE and, AEW. GCW had a show, Worlds Collide had a show. It seems like years ago at this point, but there was the N1 tournament final from Noah on Saturday morning. If you're from the East Coast of America, it was Saturday morning. Other places, of course, Saturday night. I think even other places it was like, Friday night or something like that. I can't really... Time zones are crazy. Time zones are weird. The world of wrestling is strange and weird. And we're just going to dive into it, guys. We're going to be talking about Dynamite. We're going to be talking about Monday Night Raw. We're going to be talking about Pat McAfee, Jake Paul, Anderson Silva, Thunder Rosa, everybody, Kaito Kiyomiya. So we're going to kind of do Dynamite a little differently than how we usually do it, because I ranked every single match from Clash of the Castle and All Out combined into one thing. So we're going to be giving our rankings of our matches later on, but right now we're just going to be talking about Dynamite. I think this was a very important Dynamite. Of course, everyone knows what happened. We're going to be diving into that, the melee, the tussle, the fight between Kenny Omega, the Bucks, and the Second City Saints. Everyone keeps saying the Elite versus CM Punk and Ace Steel. Does no one remember the Second City Saints? I guess Colt Cabana wasn't there, of course. He left the Second City Saints some time ago. But we'll be diving into that. They kicked off the show with an MJF recap of what happened at All Out, which I thought was good. And then Tony Khan comes in and mentions that they're vacating the world title and that they're vacating the trios title. Trios titles are doomed to fail, and this one was doomed to fail. They just had a big tournament to crown the first one, and then those guys fuck off and get in a fight, so then they have to crown, some other champions, but, you're stuck crowning someone who already lost in the tournament a few weeks ago, so already these belts are diminished down to, I would put them under the tag titles, of course, and then I would put them under the ROH titles. And, with the kind of wrestling that AEW puts on, the idea that you're going to have 6 people healthy to tell a consistent storyline is going to be rare. But nonetheless, then they also announced that an AEW Tournament of Champions. I love this idea. I love tournaments. Let's get it going. Hangman Page versus Danielson. Garcia versus Darby. Right there, those are 2 big rematches. Danielson and Hangman is a rematch from my favorite match that AEW's ever put together. And Garcia and Darby, that feud is kind of synonymous with AEW. I think they've fought, 3-4 times. But, it makes sense. You got a guy who does Daredevil stuff, who's like this pretty boy, got the good looking girl, versus the guy who does Daredevil stuff, who's kind of, an outcast. So as similar as they are, they're also very different. It's it just works. And the winner of those 2 matches one will face Jon Moxley, one will face Chris Jericho, respectively. Sign me up. Let's do it. And then MJF comes out wearing, is it Jared Allen? Is he saying Josh Allen? Because I'm a Panthers fan, and we had a guy called Kyle Allen for a while, so I'm like, don't say Kyle Allen, don't say Kyle Allen. And then he's trying to fuck with the Buffalo crowd saying Josh Allen, but I think it's Jared Allen. I'm getting all confused. I don't know too much about Buffalo sports, but I know enough to know that he is fucking with these people. Doing the ironic Cena thing, saying that he loves AEW, and he'd also said that he was better than Moses, and then he said, I'm better than you, and then held the mic up, and everyone goes, you, and you know it, which is hilarious for a crowd of people to just agree in unison that he is better than them. But then Moxley comes out, tells him to cut doesn't say shit. He says, I know, what does he say? I guess he says you can cut the crap. Pretty much he doesn't say shit, he says crap, because AEW is not swearing anymore. They're trying not to swear. So, they kind of go back and forth a little bit here. And he says, like, do you want, pretty much Moxley challenges him. And MJF takes his shirt off and then hightails it. And, that, fits him perfectly. Moxley comes out, calls him out, says that he's full of shit, which we all knew he was, and then backs him down, chases him away. I feel like that's a great thing for Moxley's character to do. I feel like that's a great thing for MJF's character to do. And it's kind of at this moment that Moxley kind of, he talks about it. He says he's embarrassed, he's mad. Obviously, he can make the excuse that he's talking about losing the world title, but I think he's talking about all the things that transpired at this press conference on late Sunday night. And he just kind of goes into this impassioned promo about like what AEW is, what it's supposed to represent. And I kind of like this AEW now. I'm kind of realizing that as much as the backstage gossip kind of hooks me, and I get obsessed with it to the point where I want to know every little detail. It's draining to learn about it. It takes away the fun of what I enjoy about wrestling. And I feel like this show kind of brought me back and reminded me of why I like AEW so much. And I think that was the design. And I think based on a few of the promos that happened tonight, I think that it kind of happened for the locker room as well. But then we go to the ring. We crown, or before we go to the ring, Andrade wants 10 with the new mask. So right there telegraphs that 10 ain't going with Andrade because 10's got that new mask. He just, bought the gear. He's not going to jump over from the Dark Order to Andrade Hardy Family Office or whatever the hell it's called, the worst faction of all time. The leader can't even get TV time. I don't even know who's in it anymore. Is Private Party still in it? Is Butcher the Blade still in it? Wasn't there some guy that would come out with Matt Hardy with a bald head but didn't ever come out with Andrade once Matt Hardy lost the faction? Literally the worst faction of all time. And Dark Order, for as much shit they get, they're a pretty popular faction. I mean, they had that one fuck up a few years ago, but they're big on YouTube. They've got a base audience of people that really like them. So I would stay put. So I think 10 is doing the right thing. Action Bronson gonna wrestle in Queens at the big show in Queens where they do the tennis match. I'm not a U.S. Open, I assume, which is awesome. If anyone's been a fan of Action Bronson like I have for like 10 years, I guess now, or 8-9 years at least, you always hear him rapping about wrestling. And then Hook, that's my favorite part about Hook, is that he comes out to Action Bronson. They're both from Queens. This is going to get a huge reaction. He is a giant star. I mean, Fucks That's Delicious. Everyone knows about that show. I think that show might be more popular than his rapping. And here he is. He's been getting yoked the last few years, still burning it down. And he's going to wrestle. This is a big celebrity get, and I'm a fan of it. But then we go in to crown the new trios titles. Death Triangle. So you already have Pac with a useless title that you never see defended versus Best Friends in Orange Cassidy with Danhausen. This was a fun little match. This, watching a wrestling match from AEW kind of, this is a wrestling show. We're obsessed with all this backstage politics. We found out about the backstage politics a little too much maybe. But this show kind of brought me at least back down to earth, this match. We saw Danhausen punch the interpreter in the dick, which is funny. Nice solid trios match. Huge Black Arrow. Death Triangle win. So you have Pac lifting up 2 titles. You got Packy 2 belts Will we see these titles defended? Probably not. Like, I think it's good for the Lucha Brothers to have something to kind of grasp their teeth, clean their teeth to. But, I mean, Pac was already kind of doing something. Death Triangle has been a faction for a long time that have great matches, but they've never really done, too much with them. So I can kind of see how the whole is better than the sum of its parts here. And then we have Penelope Ford versus Toni Storm, the new champion. We're going to be talking more about her a little later. Good to see Ford back. Looking forward to seeing more of her. Running hip attack, Northern Lights suplex, 1, 2, 3. Toni Storm, the champion, takes the victory. And then all morning, my group chats and people on Twitter were talking about what Max Caster is going to say after he came off, taking over Chicago. He comes out, yo, listen. And then Isaiah Swerve Scott cuts him off, does not let him say his freestyle in Buffalo. Crowd's chanting asshole. Crowd, it seems like Swerve is fully bought into being the heel here. And then Billy Gunn takes the mic and says it's not your house anymore, it's Daddy Ass's house, which got a huge pop. I want to see where this feud's going to go. Billy Gunn is the manager of the year maybe so far in AEW. I mean, he's done a lot. He's a player coach here, taking over this segment. He knows how to get the crowd. Still to this day, I mean, he was a member of DX, which got like the biggest reactions of all time. And here he is giving the rub to all these young guys. You got to love it. And then Wardlow comes out, versus Tony Nese. Tony Nese jiggles Wardlow's pec, which was kind of weird to see, but kind of funny. And then immediately Powerbomb Symphony, 1, 2, 3. Wardlow grabs the mic and cuts the promo of his life here. Saying, pretty much alluding to what we were talking about for months now since Double or Nothing, that they kind of, dropped Wardlow. Wardlow seems kind of, put in the back of the, the back of the pack again. He lost his steam, which is true, but a way to get all that steam back is to cut fiery promos like this. And you can tell he was pissed off when he was walking out. He was like, they were filming him from the back, and he looked at whoever and said, "Where's my music?" And then he was about to pop out from the curtain, and then he looked back and he said, "Where's my music?" And you could tell they played it then. A little unorganized chaos right before Wardlow comes out, but I think that kind of set the tone that he was ready to go. He wanted everything to work perfect, and I mean, he's their guy. They got to push him. And they got to push, I think, maybe MJF, and they got to get them in the world title picture before 2024 is over, to kind of solidify that they're not just putting the title, hot potatoing it on WWE guys. But next week we get a Darby versus Sammy video package, Jungle Boy video package. He's been cutting fire promos right now. His feud with Christian Cage, it's still going on, and it is the best thing that's probably ever happened to him. Then Stokely Hathaway comes out. They take down a production assistant on the ramp. Lee Moriarty looked like he was directed to show a little personality, and he kind of did a little bit, but I feel like he didn't really fit in with the group as much as he could have, or as much as they just didn't have him. And then we had the first match of the tournament, Danielson and Hangman Page. What an amazing fucking match this was. Go out of your way to watch it. Was it as good as that 1 hour time limit draw in Texas? No, but it kind of, was great wrestling. And I think anyone can enjoy this match. I think a lot of people that shit on AEW matches talk about how it's just like overly choreographed and not hard hitting. This match was anything but. And I think these last two matches on the show are a great way to push and change the perspective of AEW in the future. Perfect match. No handshakes at the beginning. Danielson hits a crazy, like, huge kick to Hangman on the outside. They come back in the ring. Death Valley driver to Danielson looked crazy. Chop battle snug as fuck. I'm on my feet cheering. Deadeye misses the moonsault though. Psycho knee. Pretty much this match is coming to a culmination. Buckshot lariat. Danielson reverses it into an O'Connor roll, gets the victory, steals the victory a little bit here, moves on in the tournament, and I think that means that he's going to wrestle the of Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara. And then we get the main event, Buffalo Boy himself, Daniel Garcia versus Wheeler Yuta. The feud of the year on IWTV makes its way to being the main event of Dynamite for the ROH Pure title. We have Westside Gunn. I think he's a Buffalo native as well, performing Garcia to the ring. All Yuta at the early going, though. Kind of turns around. Garcia hits a German suplex to Yuta off the top rope, and then hits a traditional suplex to Yuta off the top rope. He locks in his move, not the sharpshooter, not the Scorpion Deathlock, but the Dragon Tamer by Garcia. Yuta forced to use one of his rope breaks. Garcia then taps out Yuta. It was kind of like a sharpshooter, Scorpion Deathlock, Dragon Tamer thing, but he's just reaching back to the point where it kind of gets distorted and just kind of turns into a different kind of hold. But he was, just because he was wrenching back so much, and then boom, Daniel Garcia, the sports entertainer, becomes the new Pure Wrestling champion. Danielson comes out, puts the title on him. Jericho comes out. He can't believe it. I'm shocked. We're all shocked. This is, for as much shit as Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta get for being these no-names that are always on AEW, this is a really good story here with, is the guy a pro wrestler or is the guy a sports entertainer? It's perfect, it's great, and it's tied into some big names with Jericho and Danielson. And I think at the end of the day, we all know that these matches are going to be good and the story's good. So the people that are complaining, I think, are just complaining because they're reading reviews and not watching the show. But we're going to move on here. We're going to move on to WWE Raw, and the news coming off from that. We had Braun Strowman, this one guy I can't believe ever got released. He has always been big, but he looked even just fucking ripped here. Yeah, he fell. It was funny. He had his Shockmaster moment, but then he got up and, destroyed, I think, Otis through the barricade here. They do too much of these barricade spots. Like every show here, we're talking about them spearing the guys through the barricade. It's like kind of like the announcer's table. I mean, that used to be a big deal, and now it's not. It's like pretty soon the whole, the set's going to fall down or something. Look at like Cross and Loomis and how they have utilized them since they've returned to WWE. And now you have Braun Strowman, a guy who's an even bigger name than those guys. They're bringing him in. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, who cares about control your narrative? Let Triple H control Braun's narrative, man. It doesn't really matter here. I think this is big for him, and this is a good get for WWE. I don't know why AEW didn't jump at this guy. I mean, you're throwing money at everybody. Why not throw money at a guy that would completely stand out on your roster? I mean, they got W. Morrissey. I guess that's like when you get Braun Strowman on Wish.com or something. But Pat McAfee, a guy that I've enjoyed a lot on WWE programming, is leaving SmackDown. And I think Michael Cole really enjoyed having him. I think he added a layer of mainstream appeal to WWE SmackDown. But he's just dipping on him. He's leaving SmackDown and commentating on ESPN College Game Day, which is, every Saturday morning. Home Depot sponsors it. Jack Harlow got booed out the building last week on it. It's a big show. I get that. But couldn't you move him to Raw or something so then he could do Saturday morning, have a day of travel Sunday, do Monday Night Raw or something like that. He's still apparently with the company, but I mean, how did he sign this deal if he's not looking for other jobs? I feel like WWE looks weak here, and this is kind of the first time that they kind of looked weak since Triple H came in. What's not going to look weak is this segue into talking about Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva, October 29th. This should be good. The biggest test to date for Jake Paul here, the biggest name to date for Jake Paul here. After canceling the last fight, I think because of a lack of name value, they went out and they got a heavy hitter in more ways than one. Anderson Silva. He's old as hell, but he's tall. He looked tall in the octagon at least. Is he the same height as Jake Paul? I don't know. Jake Paul, though, can talk people into the seats. Best heel in the business today. The only one that comes close is MJF. I think this is a big, big deal. I'm going to be watching this fight. I love these fights. It's Halloween weekend. Sign me up, Jake Paul. And I'm thinking Jake Paul's going to knock Anderson Silva out right now. I'll just say that. But even if he doesn't, I feel like Jake Paul's popularity is kind of coming down. So this is the right time to cash out. Because I feel like in 2020 everyone watched. 2021 people watched. 2022, it's kind of been a mess. He hasn't fought too much. He had a rematch, he had a cancellation, so it feels like they're kind of running out of ideas for Jake Paul. And I think maybe like Dana White and some people that really gave him a lot of attention before are kind of ignoring him now. So I think if Anderson Silva knocks him out and then they all cash out with this big loss, I think, call it a good career, buddy, and then maybe move on to WWE and become a tag champ with your brother. But I do think he's going to knock him out. But I think he's fine either way with whatever happens. But I'm looking forward to watching the sports entertainment that will be Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva. And then jumping over to some more AEW news. Now we're going to be diving into the gossip. We're going to be diving into all the bullshit that happened. Talking about Thunder Rosa. She asked for her release. I learned from Keeping It 100 that she keeps mixing up what body part is actually injured. She tells Conan it's her back, but she tells other people it's her leg. And then Toni Storm in the media scrum says, well, she says she's injured, so when she says she's not injured, she can wrestle me. They're still saying it's an interim world title, and I've heard news that she pretty much not news, but a source of a source has told me in my DMs that she kind of gets bullied a lot in the back, and to the point where she hid in the bathroom because she was so scared when she accidentally broke Jamie Hayter's nose that they were going to attack her. Now we know that the threat of physical violence is something that can maybe really happen in AEW. And it looks like, there's like a female little clique going on here, complete with Toni Storm being the Shawn Michaels and the sunglasses and everything. So I can see why she wanted her release. I can see why Tony Khan is like, well, you're real popular. I don't want to just release you. You're the champion. So she kind of just says she's hurt, which, wrestlers get dinged up all the time. She might just have, it might be good for her just to heal, but this is not good for AEW. Having, your champion, getting quote unquote bullied so much by this, clique in the back. And then, looking at it from the other perspective, maybe they're not bullying her, but maybe they're thinking well, we had all these plans and all these stories that were going to go on, but then you came out of nowhere, incredibly popular, and kind of now we all have to put all these storylines that we had going on hold to kind of put you over. I don't know. Bullying is wrong, but this shit would not, go down in WWE. They're going to be a star in WWE, if you know what I'm saying. So maybe she has a backstage attitude. Maybe she's being completely bullied and having to hide because she's scared that people are going to physically attack her, so she's faking an injury. I don't know. Time will tell. But I mean, with all these people wanting to release and all these people talking about mental health and everything like that, like Malachi Black, we thought he was unhappy with the company and unhappy with his writing, but apparently he just says he needs a break from wrestling. So they let him go, and like he's still technically, like he has a no compete with the Indies, and he has no compete with WWE, but he's just taking some time off, which is pretty interesting here. But then going into something that maybe you guys are a little tired of hearing about, I hope you're not, because I'm going to dive into it. The CM Punk media scrum. Of course, now we know they're all suspended. CM Punk may be fired by this point, maybe not fired. I would keep him around at least till the video game comes out, and then I would let him, sit at home and he can make some money off the video game because he's going to be in the video game. I think he would sell some video games. I think you have a line of figures coming out with him on it, so it's probably a good business move to just suspend him. But I will say that after that pay-per-view, it was super, long. And I said this like a few weeks ago when there was, CM Punk kind of did that thing with Hangman, that all this backstage stuff is a lot more interesting than what kind of happened in the body of the wrestling show at All Out. But unlike a few weeks ago where I made that point before, it wasn't just a short TV match. It was, one of your big 4 pay-per-views. So this is not good. People have made documentaries and still do podcasts and do all kinds of things breaking down what happened in WCW. But WCW's peak was only 5 years, 96 to 2001. So all this stuff happening isn't good considering that this is your 3rd year of AEW. And, so is this, kind of AEW's peak right here? Because this would be like right at the halfway point in those 5 years. Now just talking about the scrum, Punk's whole point is that Hangman was going into business for himself, and that's justification enough for him to go into business for himself. I understand that on a personal level, but he kind of doesn't give himself an out as far as the public eye here. He does something to you, so, there's a receipt here, but you kind of, are just as good as these people that you're complaining about here at that point. And then he talks about something about shitting where you eat after running down the EVPs and burying the company in front of Tony Khan, making Tony Khan look like just like some beta ass fuck out there just sitting beside him. Tony Khan is not going to like that. He's going to get online and see that everyone's saying that he made Tony Khan look weak here, probably more so than he realized at the time. So he was kind of shitting where he eats there too. So everything that CM Punk is kind of accusing other people of doing, he is not only doing himself, but doing in the same breath that he is making these accusations. I think Punk is the most righteous here, but he is not the most right. And I don't think the other side's right either here. He kind of is just as right as the Elite along with Hangman Page. But I do have to say his point about the EVPs running this place like they were in Reseda. Hilarious line about not being able to run a target, by the way. There are so many BTE inside jokes that millions of people each week have to watch that have no clue on, and a lot of them aren't tuning in and trying to figure out what people are talking about. They're just like, oh, I don't get that. I don't know that. It doesn't make any sense. Also, FTR kind of hinted at this before. Cody, a guy raised by a booker, had problems with these guys. You could kind of just tell that it was like Cody was over here and the Elite were over here. And even when Cody had a flub with like the Anthony Ogogo thing, it kind of all made sense for what they were trying to do. It was, I feel like Cody's stuff with Malachi Black was the best thing happening on the TV at the time. And Cody's TNT title run was the best thing happening at the time. He had great matches with Sammy Guevara, and it all kind of flowed well and made more sense than the stuff that was happening with the Elite. So I get kind of where Punk is coming from, and I don't think that this came out of nowhere. I think there's a lot of guys that were saying the same thing before, maybe in the back, but just not as frustrated with it, and weren't willing to come outright and say it. So I kind of think that Punk would have been in the right had he gone about it the right way. But he didn't. So then there was a giant backstage brawl, as we know. Ace Steel, by the way, we got to talk about Ace Steel. Okay, your buddy's getting attacked 3-on-1. Apparently they kicked the door down. They busted through the locker room door to get to Punk, where Punk and Ace Steel's wife and CM Punk's dog were at. And so they're coming to attack CM Punk 3-on-1, or maybe not attack, maybe just yell at him. But, I mean, there's a certain point where if you're knocking down a door to yell at somebody, they're going to think you're fighting them. And Punk, from what I understand, punched Matt Jackson. And then Ace Steel comes in. So it's 3-on-1. You're coming in to help him, but it's still going to be 3-on-2. You got to bring the fucking heat, man. You're going to be throwing a chair, and you're going to be biting. CM Punk said in his scrum that he has friends that when he falls, they'll catch him. And Ace Steel fucking caught him that night. Get you a girl that fights beside you like Ace Steel does CM Punk. You got to love that shit. You also got to love Jericho coming out. Tony Khan looking surprised. Jericho handled this so well. He put himself over for like 15 minutes. And then as he's leaving, he whispers in Tony's ear, shit's going down. And that's when you kind of see a security guard take off. We now know that that's all the shit that happened in the back. You get, the tag champions get interviewed and everything like that. And then at the end of the promo, or the end of the media scrum, Tony Khan going off on the WWE, saying he has more money than Crockett. And I'm like, dude, it's not the money, man. Like, the money is what made you buy all these contracts up to a bunch of guys that you didn't have enough time on your TV shows to utilize, and now they're all mad, like Bobby Fish, Malachi Black, Thunder Rosa, CM Punk. So money is what's going to fuck you up, man. So saying that you have more money than Crockett, I think was kind of just, I think it was a way for him to feel like he was big and bad again after CM Punk kind of ran him down in front of the whole wrestling world. I'll just say that out right now. And I don't think he has, I don't know his bottom line, but I don't think he has as much money as the WWE, or he's willing to throw as much money at AEW than the WWE is. If you want to get rid of Punk, but you don't want to outright fire him, I would just fire Ace Steel. And then Punk would realize his boy is gone, and then Punk would probably just ride out the end of his contract. And then, be gone. I know Pat Buck got suspended. Christopher Daniels got suspended. So a lot of guys that you didn't even see on the body of All Out programming, and you didn't really hear a lot about, when this news initially came out, got suspended as well. So I think a lot of stuff that happened in the back we still don't know about, and I don't think we're ever going to know about. I don't think any one person, including the people involved, know all that happened, because it seemed like it was a big melee. Like, how would you, even if you were involved in like a 3-on-2 fight with a big pull apart, would you be able to confidently say everything that happened? You can only look one way at one time. Fightful contacted the police. The police said that they weren't called. So, no one will ever know what truly happens. It's going to be a good dark side of the ring when it finally comes out. But now let's break down every single match from WWE Clash at the Castle and All Out. That's right, they're all in one big list here, 22 matches, and the worst match of them all, Hobbs and Starks. This match was short. A show that was so long. If you're going to have a match like this, you could have put it on one of the matches on Dynamite. It was the same crowd all 3 nights. They were in the same building, and they sold bundle tickets. So it's not like people that were looking forward to seeing Ricky Starks would have missed it if they watched it on Rampage or Dynamite or something like that. And the wrong guy won. Hobbs should not have won. This was Stark's coming-of-age tale, and we didn't really get a follow-up on this at all on Dynamite. Starks got beat up by QT and them, and then doesn't even beat Hobbs. And it was just way too quick. You could tell they just shoved it in there. Whatever, I digress. We're moving on to the second worst match, which was Basler and Liv Morgan. Basler is a black hole of charisma. If you already have Ronda Rousey on the roster, why would you have Basler out there? It's pretty much the same thing with less star power. They are both kind of bad at wrestling, in my opinion. But Liv is over, so I get why they're pushing her, but this match kind of sucked, especially on a show that was so good. Clash of the Castle really needs to be talked about a little more. Just look at WWE right now. They're having 60,000 strong in another country, super hot crowd. And then AEW, the crowd wasn't as hot as they usually are. It was a marathon of a show, and at the end of the day, no one's even talking about the show. Cage versus Jungle Boy, of course. Christian hurt his elbow, but I like the storyline here where we didn't really know why Luchasaurus was back with Jungle Boy, but now we know that it was all a ruse, that Luchasaurus attacked Jungle Boy before the ramp. It looked nasty, and it was a solid little thing. But again, if you knew Christian Cage's elbow was hurt and this is what you were going to do, just put this shit on Rampage. Hook versus Cool Hand Angelo Parker. This was quick, but it was fun. 2.0, working with Hook, fun to watch. And then you got Action Bronson at the end of it. Sign me up. That's why this match, even though it was like the first match on All Out, kind of jumped these other matches because of how 2.0 can work, and then the payoff at the end of having Action Bronson in AEW. Jade and Athena, a lot better than I thought it would be, mainly because Athena hit that crazy dropkick to one of the baddies on the outside. Best Jade match of all time. 17, Street Profits and Madcap Moss versus American Alpha and Austin Theory. You got to say both names now. This match kicked off the show. It was great. Love the suicide blockbuster Doomsday the Street Profits hit on Gable. Only probably because you get to say something is called Suicide Blockbuster Doomsday. Huge frog splash. 1, 2, 3. Hot crowd the whole time. I honestly got to say, other than maybe 2 or 3 matches, I enjoyed Clash of the Castle more than I enjoyed All Out, which is insane to say. It just felt big. The big fight feel was on every match had a big fight feel. I mean, fuck, even Basler and Liv Morgan. But number 16, Pac versus Kip Sabian. This was a good match, but I'm not really excited for these. I'm not really excited seeing these trios titles, seeing that the other new title in AEW can't even make the body of the show. It's on the pre-show. This is the first big show that they've had this title at, and here Pac is bringing it out. It was set up on a show that wasn't even affiliated with AEW. Kip Sabian has always been a good wrestler, but now he's got like kind of a gimmick he can maybe sink his teeth into a little bit. I'm excited to see where this is going, and I'll be real patient with it. I wasn't too excited to see it, but Pac is always great. Hits the black arrow. That's why it's kind of up a little more than the matches from that are lower down on the ranks in this list here. Number 15, Baker, Tony Storm, Shida, and Hayter. This match was good, but along with another match that we will talk about a little later, I feel like the crowd really wanted Hayter to win, and then when Hayter didn't win on this long show, it kind of just killed the crowd, and this happened a lot on the show. The show was super long, so you really got to kind of do a lot for this crowd to kind of get them invested for this long of a time. I feel like they really didn't get back on their feet until the main event, and I think it's because the middle of this show, there was not a lot to cheer about. But it was okay. I really liked the Tony Storm hit the German to Britt Baker. Jamie Hayter comes, and while Tony Storm is bridging back to get the pin on Baker, Hayter comes and picks up Tony Storm, breaking up the pin and then hitting a pile driver. Spot of the match. Number 14, Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka versus Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Shirai. The crowd loved Bayley here, going back to Bayley's NXT days versus Nia Jax. They've loved Bayley here. The crowd of the WWE show was helped by these matches because of this crowd. Like, the crowd of the WWE show helped the ranking of these matches. Fun match. Bayley pinned Bianca, which I was surprised about. I did not see that coming. I knew that Bayley's faction was going to get the win, but I didn't think it was going to pin Bianca, pin the champion. So that's really setting up Bayley versus Bianca. Number 13, Sammy and Ty versus Ruby Wright and Ortiz. A lot of people, I noticed, did not like this match online. They thought it was silly. I mean, Ruby did get injured, so that's a damper, but I thought it was fun. I love intergender wrestling, and I love the callback here with Ortiz on the golf cart chasing Sammy Guevara. Sammy getting hit with the golf cart is like this running gag for people that have watched AEW through the pandemic and everything, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Number 12, the ladder match. I gotta say that this went up a few spots after watching the full show because it was all tied together. And there were some good spots in this match, but I feel like Andrade Cesaro deserved better. They kind of had a real awkward moment here. Phoenix and Penta going off. And then Stokely Hathaway comes out with Paige, Morrissey, Moriarty, and the Gun Club. Sick little faction here, kind of unveiled. And then this guy dressed up as the devil gets the thing. We've all seen it. We know it's MJF at this point. So it's a good little story arc. But if you're going to have a casino battle royal with no build that sets up something like this, you could have done this on Dynamite. You could have done this on Rampage. Don't forget that this is the same audience in this crowd. They would have seen this exact same match, and you would have had it played out. Like, if this happened in the main event of Dynamite, people would be like, who is this devil guy? Or if it happened at Rampage, who is this devil guy? And then it would finally pay off on the show, and it would be an even hotter crowd because it wouldn't have been so long. Number 11, Sting, Darby, and Miro versus House of Black. WWE level video package here. The Miro stare down was great, but not as good as Sting versus Malachi Black stare down. Scorpion Deathlock spot where they had to double super kick Sting to break it up was awesome. Black gets misted by Sting. Black gets misted by Sting, which is fucking nuts. Here Sting is. He used to get misted by Muda. He just got misted by Malachi Black, and then he finally realized, let's give him a taste of their own medicine. Can Sting do that shit now? Is Sting the mister now that Malachi Black is gone? What is going to happen here? Darby pins Malachi Black. That kind of telegraphs, that Malachi Black may be gone. I mean, you have Buddy Matthews there. You have Brody King. So the fact that Malachi Black, the leader of the faction, gets pinned kind of told me that he was gone. But at the time, I was as shocked as I was Bayley pinning Bianca. But now we're diving into the top 10. Edge and Ray versus Judgment Day. The crowd singing Edge's theme music was truly an amazing moment. You could tell like Edge was kind of taken back here. Ray was looking at him like, damn, dude, you're overshadowing my pop here. Ray causing Priest to fall balls first on the guardrail, led to an hilarious reaction from Priest. That was great. Edge hitting the 619 was cool. Ray diving on Rhea while Rhea was holding Dom in her arms. We now know how that all played out. Honestly, this crowd really made it here. Spear 1, 2, 3. Don then turns on Edge, kicking Edge in the balls. Edge's facial expression was even better than Priest's facial expression getting kicked in the balls. This is, amazing stuff here. And then he hits a huge lariat to Rey Mysterio, turning on his dad, turning on Edge. I'm still shocked, guys. Well, I'm not shocked, but I enjoy this shit. I think I called this. And then we had Motor City Machine Guns, Jay Lethal versus FTR and Wardlow at number 9. Chicago loves Wardlow. Motor City Machine Guns cutting the ring in half. Wardlow breaking the ring down, breaking them in half with a double suplex. Cash Wheeler going off, Powerbomb Symphony to Lethal, 1, 2, 3. Joe comes back. You kind of forget that Samoa Joe came out of nowhere on this show and goes after Singh. I'm thinking you can bring Wardlow back if you have Wardlow powerbomb Singh. I don't know if he can get him up. I don't know, but that would be the spot that would get him, back over where he was right before the MJF feud ended. Number 8, The Acclaimed versus Swerve in Our Glory. This match was awesome, but honestly, it would have been in like the top 3 matches had the Acclaimed won. Chicago was cheering for the Acclaimed. This is obviously what they should have done. They should have called an audible, but It was bad. It was bad. Like, they should have put the Acclaim over here in Chicago. I know that it's booked for the whatever they call it, the U.S. Open place, the Grand Slam event, but they should have done it here. This was the right time. And to make matters worse, Caster picks up Lee. And then it leads to a 2 count. So they did this spot where, Hogan Andre spot, WrestleMania 3, Cena Big Show spot, WrestleMania 20. But unlike these star-making moments, it was a 2 count. Don't get me started on that shit. I feel like this match and the women's 4-way, they were back-to-back. The wrong guys won. The Chicago crowd really wanted at least one of these matches to go their way, and they didn't. And I think the rest of the show kind of had a more dead crowd because of it. And it kind of also shows that Tony Khan is just kind of putting over former WWE guys. I mean, Tony Storm, Isaiah Scott, Keith Lee. I mean, where's some homegrown talent here? Number 7, Gunther and Sheamus. This was a great match. Imperium and Sheamus's group going at it while Gunther and Sheamus are just staring each other down. Sheamus's chest is red as fuck from the first 2 minutes. Strike battle here. Outside the ring, inside the ring, white noise. Wales wants to see him win here. 1-2, he kicks out. Celtic Cross, 1-2, he kicks out. Huge lariat. Boom, 1-2-3, Gunther wins the match. This match was good, but it wasn't the best strong style match on the weekend. Get mad at me if you will, but number 6, Kingston versus Ishii. I love a good old-fashioned, never open weight style match here, and this is exactly what this was. True strong style. This was great. Like, the first 8 minutes, they're just chopping the shit out of each other. Snug chops. Crowd gets on their feet. They go back to the snug chops. Bitch slapping, powerbomb, lariat, spinning back fist. Ishii keeps kicking out. He won't quit. Headbutt. Northern Lights, 1-2-3. Kingston finally gets the victory. Such a good match, but it wasn't as good as the top 5, and we're going to go into the top 5. Number 5, Punk versus Moxley. Why this match is placed so high is the big fight feel here. The crowd was going nuts for Punk and Mox here. GTS 1-2, Mox kicks out. Suicide dive from Punk. More dueling chants. Punk bleeding. Mox goes after the foot of Punk. Not just chanting for CM Punk here. Or now Chicago was just chanting for CM Punk here. They kind of, it was dueling chants. They kind of went back into dueling chants, and then by the end of it, they were all cheering for Punk. Mox pummeling Punk. Elbow off the top. Moxley catches him in a hold. GTS reversed into the Death Rider. 1-2. No, GTS. Then another GTS. 1-2-3. Then that's when we get the payoff where MJF comes out. But the video package was so good here. The Punk clip with the from the promo with ROH, the Tony Khan answering machine message. This was fucking great. This made up for the long ass show and everything like that. You kind of forgot all about that. Too bad it was all overshadowed by the stuff that happened right directly after that. But so it was like, I'm all excited for All Out. All Out was too long. I kind of, it dampened how I felt. And then the MJF thing happened, and I was like, holy shit. And then right when I was done with that, I tuned into the press conference, and I was completely shocked like anybody else would be. I was seeing Punk saying all that stuff, and then the next day I found out that he says all that stuff, and then they end up fighting and everything. I cannot freaking believe it. But that match at number 5 wasn't as good as number 4, the Clash of the Castle main event, Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. As much as the main event for AEW was there, I have to say the big fight feel for this match was even bigger. It was an even bigger fighter feeler. Crowd singing as the bell rings. If I were WWE, I would do a big stadium show like this in the UK every year, and that Raw and SmackDown that I do in the UK, I would move that to like kind of mainland Europe, and I would save these big crowds for these big shows, these WrestleMania-like shows. I mean, shit, if Saudi Arabia can get a big show, the UK crowd deserves a big show every single year. Cross and Scarlett throw a bottle at Drew McIntyre at the early going. I thought they were going to play a bigger part in this match, but that was kind of it. They were just out there. They threw a bottle, and then, they threw the bottle. Match is picking up. The crowd is hooked. Roman hits a rock bottom, kind of foreshadowing some stuff here. Drew kicks out of everything. The power of Cardiff crowd is really fueling him, you see. Then Theory comes out trying to cash in the Money in the Bank, but then Tyson fucking Fury out of nowhere stops him with just a one-punch KO. Drew still won't quit, but he should have, because he got fucking speared 1, 2, 3. After the match, after the big dog walks out of the UK, leaving 60,000 strong, disappointed as fuck, Tyson Fury gets in the ring and leads them all into singing a rendition of American Pie. How did this become a thing? I don't know. Drew felt like a big star. I kind of see this going with Team Drew featuring Tyson Fury versus Team Bloodline at Survivor Series. Something happens here where Fury gets mad at Drew, and then you have one night of WrestleMania, you have The Rock versus Roman, and then the second night of WrestleMania, you have Fury versus Drew McIntyre. Number 3 in this long list of matches here is the Elite versus the Dark Order and Hangman Page. These titles are going to fail. They already kind of did. I wrote that before we even saw what happened and everything. Trios titles just do that. This match was fucking great, though. Alex Reynolds chants. Alex Reynolds always goes off. It's cool to see him get some recognition. So many good spots here to call. Hangman Page hits a buckshot to the back. One-winged angel. Silver reverses it. That was so cool to see. Buckshot. Kenny ducks. Silver gets hit. 1, 2, 3. The Elite get the Trios title for a few days here before they have to relinquish him. They should just let the Elite have the Trios titles. I mean, you got so many titles. Like, no one would have missed these titles. Like, no one would have been like, well, who's the interim Trios champions? Who cares, I wonder if they wore the new titles while they were fighting Punk. I mean, because they did go in 3-on-1. They should have worn the belts. But all joking aside, we got 2 matches here, and it's between Jericho, Daniels, and Rollins and Riddle. And number 2 is Rollins and Riddle. Believe it or not, this is an example of a little bit of animosity can go a long way. Not the kind of animosity that happened in the AEW locker room, but a little bit of animosity can really get some heat for the match. All Rollins in the early going. Riddle fires back. Bro to sleep. 1, 2, no. Flying bro. Rollins gets his knees up. Rollins hits the bro Derek. 1, 2. Riddle kicks out. Crowd still singing. They were really behind Rollins here. Pedigree. 1, 2. Riddle kicks out again. Riddle bitch slaps him. Goes to the floor. Both men down. Second rope curb stomp. 1, 2, 3. Rollins gets the victory. I mean, I thought it was going to be Riddle, but that crowd wanted Rollins. And, I mean, Triple H put over Rollins at WrestleMania, so I feel like Rollins is gonna be just the guy who puts over, or who gets put over everybody else for a long time. I mean, as good as Triple H is as a booker, he still has an ego. Number 1, though, Jericho versus Danielson. This match was great. This match was completely different than the Trios match. This match was completely different than any other match on the AEW show. It started out real slow. I don't know who the fuck was singing the Bryan Danielson song with him, but he was out there singing. Jericho at one point counters a Hurricane Rana, attempts into a Walls of Jericho. That was awesome. Bryan misses the headbutt off the top. Lion Salt. Bryan gets his knees up. Great shit here. Walls of Jericho countered into a triangle by Danielson. Lion Tamer by Jericho. Danielson gets to the ropes. Psycho knee. 1, 2. Jericho kicks out. Cattle mutilation. Just throwing elbows at him. Referee gets into him because he's in the ropes here, and he says it just like the ROH champion we know from the old days. Danielson says, "I got till 5, referee." There was a little spit spat with the referee, which allows Jericho hit the low blow like the son of a bitch he is. 1, 2, 3. Chris Jericho gets the victory. I mean, if it ends up with these 2 guys in the main event for the world title, I'm not going to complain. I think having Danielson have the world title would be fresh for AEW. And I think putting the title back on Jericho, you can't really argue with that because, he's the best guy week to week since MJF has been gone for AEW. These two guys have been holding down the company with Kenny being hurt and with Punk being hurt. They finally come back and there's all this beef again. I kind of like this AEW. I like this AEW. I'll say it like that. With those 4 guys gone, they got enough guys on their roster, and they can have some great matches. And I felt like the matches on Dynamite were slower paced, were more palatable to the common wrestling fan, and just as good as the super intense, high flying matches that guys like the Elite have. Speaking of too long of shows, this show seems like it's been too long, but we do have the N1 final. I told you guys I would talk about it. Dakitamiya versus Hideki Suzuki, the young upstart, the Noah mainstay meeting the guy who kind of failed in NXT, the veteran who failed in NXT, meeting each other in a big tournament in Noah. It was all the veteran in the early going. Kaito Kitamina shortly gets the upper hand, but gets cut off by Hideki Suzuki, going after the arm, and then kind of going after the body. He works the arm, he gets him to the ground, then he goes after the body. Kitamiya gets the upper hand for another short period of time on the outside. Still can't really hold it down for any length of a time. Suzuki then just starts firing down with elbows. Still can't put Kitamiya away though. Shining Wizard 1-2. Suzuki kicks out, or Shining Wizard. Kitamiya kicks out. They go after the ropes. This is 30 minutes into this match. Now Suzuki is going after the leg. So he worked over the arm, the body, and now he's going after the leg. STF. Kitamiya gets to the ropes. Butterfly suplex 1-2. Kitamiya kicks out. Another suplex attempt 1-2 kick out. Another one 1-2. Suzuki kicks out. Suzuki this time kicks out. Shining Wizard 1-2-3. Kaito Kitamiya wins the N1 final. I know I rushed that, guys. I just feel like the show was pretty long. I feel like this was my all out, talking about everything that happened, but always fly high. I'm out.